this is PJ Souls, and you are totally listening to Phantasm Podcast. Keep listening.
Halloween, the motion picture about the most terrifying night of the year, starring Donald Pleasance.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Halloween, the night he came home. Rated R.
All right, come on, where's my beer?
Meet Rip, the wildest girl in rock and roll high school.
I've done more detentions than anyone in the school's history.
The only girl I ever dream about at night is Rip. And how to have a cheerleader. Nice set of pom-poms.
Tom wants Rip, but Rip wants to live a rock and roll fantasy with her favorite group, the Ramones.
We are going to destroy their music.
The students rock and wreck the school at Rock and Roll High School. Rated PG.
All right, you've looked at the General's refrigerator long enough. Let's go.
Corey Gorechrist here at the Phantasm Podcast. We are live at Days of the Dead Louisville, and we are here with a horror icon, PJ Souls. How are you?
I'm totally fine.
Totally. And, well, we're nearing the last day, unfortunately. Everyone's tired, hungover, ready to go home.
Speak for yourself.
Ready to maybe not go home. So how was the weekend for you overall?
Oh, it was awesome. Everybody here was great. It's always nice when it's pouring rain, as long as the people have gotten here by Friday. It seems to be...
they don't smell like...
Well, it's just nice because they've made it.
Yeah.
They're hunkered down for the weekend, and then it's fun to look out the windows. It kind of adds to the, the ambiance of the horror convention.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's a good way to look at it, too, yeah. I had a very fun weekend as well, and actually stayed pretty sober this time around, which is good. Usually I go pretty overboard, but a little more controlled this year. As we went to the Days of the Dead a couple months back, so I guess I got it all out of my system already.
All right. Is this a confessional?
Yeah. Just had to let you know. If you will, we'll talk a little bit about your career and everything, and so you were born in Germany, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I was, yeah. My father was from Rotterdam, Holland, and my mother from New Jersey, and her first husband had been killed in World War II.
Oh, wow.
And she went over to help with the restoration efforts in Germany and to see where they had buried her first husband, and then came upon my dad, who had been working with the Dutch Underground and captured and sent to a work camp in Germany, and General Patton opened the gates to his freedom, and he was kind of rehabilitated at an army base, the same one that my mother was at, and that was an amazing set of circumstances that led to the birth of me.
That's remarkable, to say the least.
It is.
Wow.
It took all that.
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
I always have to thank her first husband, Mark, and unfortunately he lost his life, but I gained one. So.
Wow, that's insane. And he went to school in Brussels.
I did. Well, after Germany, then my mom had been working for a company, AIU, that's now AIG, but it started in Germany as an insurance company insuring American officers and companies overseas. And she got my dad a job. Of course, he speaks 6 languages, having been from Holland.
Unbelievable.
And then we moved to Morocco, to Casablanca.
There you go.
And so I went to kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade in the very exotic Morocco, which I have many memories from. My first memory of eating out was sitting on cushions and eating with my fingers, which of course as a child was, wow, this is fun, better than home. This is what eating out means. All right.
This is the proper way, guys.
Yeah, and then we moved to Maracaibo, Venezuela. So in Morocco I learned French, and then I learned Spanish in Venezuela.
How old were you at this time?
So, well, in Morocco I was 5, 6, and 7, and then I was 8 to 14 in Maracaibo, and it was wonderful. We lived certainly not in Caracas. That would probably have been a different experience, but and then we moved briefly back to New Jersey for a year while my dad worked down in New York City, and then we moved to Brussels, where I went to the International School of Brussels for high school, and then every 2 weeks of the month he would work in Algeria. So I'm grateful to him that he didn't move us there, but he put us in Brussels, and I had a wonderful time there. So.
And being born, in Europe and then coming to America, what was it like the differences, like coming from there?
Well, it was, I know, being that my mother was American and my father was liberated by General Patton, everything American was God.
Yeah.
And, so I was raised with America's the best, which it is, and so I'm happy about that.
Right.
So, of course, all I wanted to do was be in Americas. But every 4 years, whenever we would transfer from continent to country, we would come back to New York City, and we'd spend 2 glorious months in the city, and I'd be hanging out in Central Park. The downside was we had all kinds of dental visits, and I probably had about 15 shots, so my arms were always sore for the shots that you had to get for the next country, immunizations. But, man, I just loved that time in the city, and it was also pretty much my first exposure to television. In all those other countries, really, not a lot of TV. I know, my boyfriend talks about always these shows. Oh, did you watch, Mr. Ed? And I go, no, there was no Mr. Ed in Morocco. You don't understand.
Yeah, we watch a talking horse here in America.
Venezuela, no. Every show was in Spanish. You don't get it. So at 3 o'clock in the morning in the hotel, I was always turning on the TV and having it as low as possible and watching Shirley Temple movies and Haley Mills, and so that was kind of the beginning of looking at movies and being just excruciatingly delighted by them. So.
Right.
And then in Brussels, again, no TV. I think there was a channel, how to use the telephone, and we used to sit there and just laugh.
I'd watch that now, and it would be entertaining. That's something where you can look back on and be like, I want to watch that again.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it was one of our favorite shows, and then it's funny that in Halloween I get strangled by the telephone, so that was the improper use of a telephone. But
and they didn't know about the telephone part that you told her. That was just kind of ironic that it happened. That's amazing.
So, and then, of course, Sears Roebuck, that giant big catalog was our Bible, and sat on the coffee table, and that was where you would choose your Christmas gifts. And
this
my
isn't
mother,
an ordinary magazine. That thing is like actually the size of a Bible.
It is the size of the Yellow Pages. in the United States. But my mother was very smart. She always got a job since she started as a secretary, and she always got a job with the American military overseas, and so we always had access to PX and commissary. And I can't tell you, once a month we would go to the Army base, whatever country we're in, and go through those gates, and my mother would show her badge, and we would stock up on all things American, and it just, I mean, really, it was a thrill. So
MVP experience over there. And then we'll talk about, you auditioned for the role of Princess Leia, which I had no idea that you did that. That's pretty cool.
Well, I didn't know I did it either. I mean, it really, you guys know Star Wars. We all know it now. But at the time, it was George Lucas, who was he, Brian De Palma, who is he, sitting behind one desk. And, they were looking over for 3 days all the teenagers in L.A., and I happened to be in that line because I had just moved to L.A. 2 weeks ago from New York City. Yep. And then when I walked in, I was wearing my red baseball hat, and Brian De Palma looked at George and said, I'm going to put her on my list, and George kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, okay. So he didn't say, oh, you're missing out on this amazing, movie, but so we didn't know. But I was happy to be put on the list, and 3 auditions later, I got the part, and I actually auditioned for Nancy Allen's role.
Right.
But Brian liked me so much, he kind of created the role of Norma. Norma had one line from Carrie, and has one line. Thanks a lot, thanks a lot, Carrie, when she misses the ball in the opening scene of the volleyball game. And from there, he just thought, I think he loved my red hat, so he kept shoving me next to Nancy Allen and saying, you're her best friend.
Right.
You do whatever she wants. You do her bidding. She says plug it up, you say plug it up.
Right. And what was it like working with Brian De Palma?
Well, it was my first experience. I had done a soap opera in New York City for a year.
Okay.
Days of Our Lives, and so I had
wow.
some idea.
It's a big
and,
one, yeah.
And I had done many commercials. I had been modeling. I lived 5 years in New York City after coming there from college. And when my parents moved to Istanbul, I didn't want to go. They begged me to go to Roberts College in Istanbul, and I said, please let me live in the United States. I'm 18 now.
Right.
So they relented. But in any event, he was very quiet, but I was extremely impressed with the 3 auditions that I did have that were in his apartment with about 12 other cast members that all ended up getting in the movie.
Sure.
All his walls in his apartment were covered with 8x10 storyboards of every scene. And I thought, wow, this is how you make a movie? You have to draw it first? But that was just him. And so he's very fastidious, knew exactly what he wanted.
Right.
The visual, obviously, was very important to him. And as far as the actors, he didn't talk to you a lot, but he gave you free rein. So especially me, since I was a kind of, a character that wasn't in the book. And so anything I want to do, and as long as it was cut and you looked at him and he was smiling,
then you knew
I'll bet a sinister smile, you knew that, okay, we're moving on, and that was good.
Now, at that point, did you like having the free roam, or did you kind of want a little bit of direction?
Since I was new, I was like, yeah, all right, this is the way it is, okay.
Right.
Doesn't work that way in television, however, as I found out. I did a couple of shows, Simon, Airwolf, Knight Rider. Man, those directors, you missed the. You didn't say the. I'm like, okay, we'll take it again. I'll say the. Sorry.
Very specific. Wow. And what was it like working with Travolta and Sissy Spacek?
Travolta was great. I did my screen test with him. So like I said, awesome. I auditioned for that scene in the truck for Nancy Allen's part. And we had 3 weekends where we, practiced. And he was really fun, a great guy. Sissy was amazing. I just loved her, and but she made it very clear from day one she wasn't going to hang out with us as much as she wanted to, because she wanted to keep that distance and to feel alienated. So, it lasted till about the week before wrap, and then she goes, "I can't take it anymore. You guys are having so much fun. Come on, hang out with me." So
it's crazy what they do to get into character. It's
well, she really needed to feel that alienation. So.
Wow. It worked. You can see it in the film.
Yes. She was great. I never had any scenes with Piper Laurie, and I never actually saw her being filmed, but I thought she really was the glue for that movie.
Oh, yeah.
She was the crazy mother we're all blessed to not have.
I remember that more than the Carrie stuff, honestly.
Exactly.
The mom is what made it a thriller and made it really suspenseful.
She was amazing, and I liked it.
Oh, yeah. That's great. Did you ever get to meet Stephen King?
No, he never came to the set, but actually the writer who wrote the script, that I can't even think of his name, he was there on the first day, and from what I understand, Brian banned him from the set after that first day. I don't know what happened, or he just didn't want him around. He was like out. But Steven Spielberg, who again, like Lucas and De Palma, that first audition, nobody knew him.
Yeah.
And he was a pal of De Palma's, and he hung around a lot, and he asked all of us girls out, except Sissy. She was married to Jack Fisk, who was the set decorator, who did a great job.
Right.
But, and we all said no except for Amy Irving. So... And there you go, $100,000 divorce settlement later.
PJ denied Steven Spielberg, so there you go.
Well,
that's a nice tidbit.
Even if he had been the Steven Spielberg, I probably would have said no. This is not my kind of guy.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sorry, Steven.
Not a fan of his.
Sorry, Steven.
Not a fan of his green hat. Maybe if he had the red hat.
He just talked too much.
Did it?
It's all about him.
Yeah. He's always in his director's chair, and he's always talking about himself.
Well, he kept talking about all these things he wanted to do, and like, oh, right, another dreamer here. Okay. Sure, you're going to make it big in movies.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you and your vision. Okay.
Okay.
Then we'll move on to probably your most iconic role.
Psychotic? Oh, iconic.
Iconic role. wouldn't say psychotic. Not yet. I mean, John Carpenter's Halloween, where you are Linda Vanderklok, the infamous final kill of the film. Talk about how that came about and working with John. And
Yeah, well, that was an audition, although John told me later that he had seen me in Carrie, so he had kind of had his eye on me.
You say that he liked the way you said totally. Is that true?
Yes, I read. Very unusual in those days, or any days, to read with the director and just meet with the director first audition, but I did, and read with him, and he said, you got the part if you wanted, and I go, well, yes, and I said, what made you think of me? And he said, well, you're the only one that read totally the right way, because I've seen everybody. I said, well, how else would you have said it? And he goes, well, that's why I'm giving you the part. But anyway, he denies that. He said that didn't happen. I said, yes, it did, John. You just don't remember. And then he had me stay and choose my boyfriend. And so that was fun. So we picked out Bob, and there were 3 guys out there. So that was fun, yeah.
What were some experiences you take from that film that you?
Well, it was vastly different from De Palma's. No storyboards in the living room, and then just the fact that he and Deborah Hill and even Dean Cundy included, the DP, director of photography.
Right.
They were very collaborative and always the 3 heads together, hush hush talking. It was a very quiet, mellow set. Again, the same as Brian De Palma, free reign for any kind of ad lib, especially my bedroom scene, because that wasn't really scripted. It was, Shape comes back up and strangles Linda. So, okay, he wanted some nudity, but he didn't want to push it, whatever you're comfortable with. And so I came up with the sheets down, see anything you like, because he said, you just need to get Bob back into bed with you, but he's not coming, and you're frustrated, and you go call Lori. Yeah. So that was kind of guiding. So, and since it was low budget and only a 3-week shoot, 1 or 2 takes, so he was very happy that worked out so smoothly. And
awesome.
I just loved working with them. It was really a very collaborative set, a very fun set, lots of laughing, no stress, no tension.
Right.
De Palma kind of had it like he had one of those director's chairs that was really high up.
That's what I always envision with directors. I just think they're like playing around with like a crane with a chair on it.
Well, he loved cranes, of course, the prom scene.
It's like a cherry picker.
Yes, and for him it was all about the visual and the shots, and he was, I think that was about his 3rd film at that point, De Palma. Yeah. So he was really into wanting to get those shots. But obviously Carpenter too, and that's why he was friends with Garrett Brown, the Steadicam operator. Right. So he made use of that, which was cutting edge at the time, walking down the sidewalk with this floating camera. It was amazing. And but it was about efficiency and how can we get this scene done in 1 take.
Yeah. Now, did you take your experiences from Carrie and into Halloween, or did you play it differently because it was a different vibe to the production?
Well, I knew I wanted to make the 2 characters different, so definitely Norma was more naive, and Nancy Allen's Chris was more like what Linda would have been. So I drew kind of from that and said, okay, I'm going to play Chris this time because she's the girl with the boyfriend, and I get to be in bed like she was with Travolta in the truck. So, so I knew that was going to be different, and I just wanted again, like Carrie, I guess, sort of I wanted a bright light to kind of shine through and to have a lot of energy on the screen, so I would stand out so I could get another part.
Right.
That was my guiding principle. Let's get another role out of this, because who knows where this movie's going.
Right. And how crazy is it to look back like 40 years later and it's still at the top of it?
It blows my mind. I'm sitting here at these conventions and I'm always just astounded that people still even, not only do they know these movies, they love these movies, and their kids love these movies, and the teenagers love these movies. So never, ever would have thought in a million years, but who was thinking of that? In your 20s, you're only thinking of, oh gosh, I need to get another job. I hope I can make it as an actress. So a delightful turnout all these years later.
And of course, when that's happening, when you're actually filming this, you don't really think that from 40
God,
years
no.
from now. You know?
No, you're thinking
in the moment, and like, this is great.
Yeah, just in the moment, and totally. Oh God, I don't want to blow it. I hope I remember my lines. I hope he likes me. I hope I look good on TV. I hope my hair is good.
If I say totally right on film and not just in the audition.
Totally, I wasn't worried about it.
And it's a great film, and I think it resonates because you can tell that it was fun creating it because it brings it out.
Yes,
with the cast itself.
I definitely think it was, like Tony Moran said in the panel the other day, a perfect storm, including the music that I had no idea John was going to do. So at the cast and crew screening, when I saw the movie for the first time and the credits came on and that music, I'm like, what is that? And it was just the icing on the cake, and I went, wow, this is really good. I hope people see it. So I figured they were going to pull it out at Halloween.
Right.
But I certainly didn't think, like, next year, 40th anniversary? Wow.
Absolutely, yeah. Working with Dean Cundy on Rock and Roll High School.
I know. The first day of shooting, I show up, and he looks at me and goes, what are you doing here? I go, what are you doing here?
So you didn't even know you was working on the project?
No, wow. I didn't. But it was very exciting, and I knew that I was in good hands because... I thought he did a great job in Halloween, so I told the director, Alan Arkish, I said, oh my God, this guy's the best. He goes, I know. So luckily, the prices hadn't gone up yet. These guys were still available because he was amazing, and I thought he filmed, Rock and Roll High School, and just awesome. And Alan Arkish had been cutting trailers for Roger Corman, so for him, every scene was like a trailer, so to get the most impact, and I just sock it to it, so it was just exciting.
And what about rocking with Roger Corman?
Well, yeah, Roger never came to the set, luckily, because Alan Arkish was already under the gun and nervous because he kind of begged for a year to get his chance to do this movie, and he kind of promised girls' gym, lots of girls dancing in short shorts and stuff like that. First it was called Disco High, so Roger kind of went along with that
there's a lot of
premise.
different names for it.
I know, so
when they finally got to Rock and Roll High School.
Yeah, luckily Alan had a really clear vision, and I just think it's the Ramones' Hard Day's Night, and I love it's my favorite movie that I did. I love the character of Riff Randall once again,
very iconic.
An American teenager that I longed to be, and
that's what they wanted, right? They wanted it to be like an American teenage kid movie about music. And,
absolutely. So things I knew little about, but just kind of brought out, and all my wishes and dreams of what I thought I wanted my childhood to have been like. So again, it's kind of weird that I grew up in all these foreign countries, and so it was sort of just a perfect situation that you got somebody in those lead roles that just wanted to make the most of that American iconic girl in high school.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film.
Yes.
I know a lot of friends who are huge fans of the Ramones, so they love that movie. And you were telling me that Marky was next to you at a convention, and that's the first time you had talked to him, like, ever?
Yes, I saw him a couple of times. The first time he didn't say much at the first convention. He was only selling headshots and a drumstick, signed drumsticks. And I'm like, Marky, you got to have more than this. Don't you have pictures of the Ramones? What's going on? And people wanted to take pictures of us together. So in subsequent conventions, they would always put us together, and people would get pictures of the two of us together.
And stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then he realized, more and more. So the last time I saw him at Chiller Theater in New Jersey, oh my gosh, he had a banner behind him from The Simpsons. I guess the time that the Ramones were on The Simpsons, which is, what a nice tribute was that.
Sure.
And selling his pasta sauce, and people were bringing all kinds of stuff for us to sign. One guy brought a model of a pink Cadillac, which I thought was darling, and we both signed it and took pictures. And now he just talks nonstop, so I'm like, I'm so glad to see that you've changed. He's still touring. He does a radio show. He is really alive. It's good to see.
Yeah, it's good to embrace your, what you had previously. Keep doing it.
Absolutely.
So you can't do it.
He's well beloved.
Oh yeah. And honestly, this kind of stuff with Rock and Roll High School, all the cult films and Halloween, it really just gets better over time, and you don't really realize that until you look back on it.
It's true. Well, especially since, of late, the movies and the music that are coming out of the 2000s. I don't know. It's just, are we, I don't know that
They're not as
people
good,
are
so
going to
people
look
are
back.
appreciating the old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, the 60s, 70s, and even, of course, the 80s. They're just it was just some of the most wonderful music and movies to come down the pike. So I think it's nice that the younger generation are really embracing that time period and, keeping it alive.
Right. And then working on Stripes, one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Me too.
Ghostbusters is probably my favorite Ivan Reitman film, but Stripes would probably be right after that. Now, from what you were saying before with your military background, how did that come into play working on the set of Stripes? Was it kind of like a common ground for you, or was it a lot different?
My mother's the one that worked as a secretary for the military. We were allowed on the ground, so it wasn't like I had military experience, but I obviously knew Army bases and had experience in the knowledge of what military brats were like. But what I can say about that is the part where we were shooting at the Russians, my dad was so excited. So he was like, I watched the movie with him in a theater, and he's like, go get him, Pam, because my name's Pamela Jane, so he'd call me Pam.
Right.
Go get him, Pam. And so that's the highlight for me of watching the movie with my dad. But I mean, I had done Private Benjamin before that, and
right.
so I had a little bit of idea, since I was the perfect private in that one. I was Private Wanda Winter. I wore a black wig, and I actually wore my same uniform in both movies, and boots, because you used to get your costumes from Western Costume. And
wow.
So it was kind of funny that, they just changed, obviously, the name band, but so I don't know. I just had a familiarity with it, and it was just fun.
It's a great film, and
yeah.
your screen presence with Bill Murray is incredible, and it's a lot of fun.
We had a really great time. He is extremely difficult to work with. He's very moody. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this because it's the truth, and he's old enough to know the truth. But on screen, we both had a connection, especially in the kitchen scene.
Right.
And I pride myself on, I got Bill Murray to actually look at me in the eyes and have a tender moment with me.
Yeah.
And
genuine,
I got
you
him
can tell.
to be kind of, out within himself and not a character. And I've just loved that. I love the kitchen scene. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We were supposed to be outside watching fireworks. It was pouring rain. Ivan said, let's go inside. Bill walked in the kitchen. He's opening the fridge. It's not our house. I'm like, what are you doing? And Ivan knew enough to say, bring the camera in here. Stop. And literally, it was 2 or 3 takes. We did the master shot, we did close-ups, and he knew Bill was just going to take that scene to a special place, and all I did was follow, and it was magic.
It is magic. That's awesome. Well, it's been an honor talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Excellent questions.
It means a lot to us.
It was
Definitely
fun
with
talking to you.
my co-host really wanted this to happen because Halloween's his favorite. So.
Oh, good. Hey, this is PJ Souls, and you are listening to Phantasm Podcast. Keep listening because there's more to come.